So why, and I think this is something a lot of people in the industry don't understand, the concept that every problem is a leadership problem. So why is every issue that the dirt world is facing right now, from, one of the biggest issues is labor. They just can't find enough people. Why is every problem in the dirt world a leadership problem?
So a while back, and then I'm talking a while back, it might be 5 years ago or something like that, I was on a call and I was with, it was Echelon Front. I was the representative of Echelon Front, and we'd been hired by a company, a big company, and they had also hired one of the other big consulting firms. And so we're both on this call. And it was interesting, the board had brought in this big consulting firm to help this company sort of right itself, and the CEO actually reached out to Echelon Front and wanted to have me help them out. And so I'm sitting on this call, and they're talking about the problems that they're having. And it was the problems that people have. They had people in the wrong positions. They had divisions that weren't holding their P&L, and they had process that were not functioning properly. And so the other consulting company sort of said, well, here's some things that we can do. We can set up some spreadsheets around this. We can do a process study on these things. We can do an analysis of the personnel that you have and what their highest qualities are. And so they went through their sort of protocol of what they were going to do, and I was listening. And then the CEO, who had hired me, he said, well, Jocko, what do you think of all these problems that we're having? And I think that might have been the first time I said, all these problems are leadership problems. All these problems are leadership problems. All problems inside of an organization are leadership problems. If you have managers or leaders that are not making their P&L correct, that means they don't understand the importance of it. That means they don't have the tools that they need to get there. That means that they're not making decisions that support the P&L being correct. If you have processes that are not functioning properly, you have leaders that are not going in there and assessing these processes and making sure that they are functioning properly. If you have personnel that are not high functioning in a certain job, then you have a leader that's allowing them to be there or not training them to be more efficient at that job. So you can talk about any problem that you have inside of an organization, and that problem is going, when you pull the thread on it, it's going to be a leadership problem. So doesn't matter if it's in combat, trying to capture or kill bad guys, or if it's in the dirt world, trying to pull stuff out of the ground. It doesn't matter, because the leadership principles are the same, and the problems that you suffer are because of the leadership inside the organization, and the way to correct those problems is through leadership.
Everything is a leadership problem, but most of the companies in the dirt world don't do any sort of leadership training at all. So
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately or fortunately, it's not just the dirt world.
Right.
And the reason I say unfortunately, because it really causes problems inside companies. And I say fortunately because I'm a capitalist and I have a company where we teach leadership. Right. The only reason that we exist is because we teach leadership. That's what we do. And the only reason there's a market for it is because most companies don't teach leadership. What they do is they take someone that's performed well at a certain job, and if they perform well at that job, they elevate them to the next level of leadership. They don't do it they don't give them any training to elevate. And this was actually, sadly, the same case inside the SEAL teams when I was in the SEAL teams. We trained our leaders through OJT, which is on-the-job training. That's how most of the leadership training was conducted in the SEAL teams. And when I finally got to a position where I had some significant control over the type of training we ran, I put a massive emphasis on leadership training. And on top of that, I made it doctrine to get these leaders trained up. So you're right, it's the dirt world, the construction world, but it's not just the dirt world and the construction world that doesn't train their leaders. I see it in the financial industry. I see it in the energy industry. I see it in the sales industry, in the pharmaceutical industry. It doesn't matter what industry you go to, there isn't a lot of leadership training. And like I said, that's why we exist.
Can you talk to how it's a skill though? Because I would have gone my whole life doing just that. They perform well at this, so they're clearly a manager, they're clearly a leader, and put them in that position without the understanding of this is a skill that I need to train. I feel like most people don't even know. Like, I think it doesn't happen out of just ignorance.
Yeah, so you're right. People don't often recognize that leadership is an actual skill, that there are techniques and tactics and procedures that you can learn that you can directly apply. It'd be like saying, hey, I want you to play a concert on guitar, and you'd never played guitar before.
Yeah.
You couldn't do it, right? You couldn't do it. You have to learn the chords, you have to learn the fretboard, you have to learn the strings, you have to do that. If you never played basketball before, and I said, okay, I want you to go and play basketball, you can't just go play basketball. You have to learn how to dribble. You have to learn how to shoot. You have to learn how to play defense. You have to learn the way the team is going to integrate together. There's plays that you're going to run. So guitar, you need to learn. Basketball, you need to learn. For some reason, we think that leadership is an innate skill that we're born with. But it's not any more innate in many ways than basketball or than guitar. So it is unfortunate that people don't recognize that, but as soon as they recognize, this is the beautiful thing, as soon as people recognize that you can actually learn leadership and that there's skills and there's maneuvers and there's techniques that you can utilize that will help you bring your team together and move them forward in a positive direction, as soon as people realize that, then they say, okay, cool, sign me up. And again, that's why I have this business. Because people once they recognize it's a skill they can learn, they want to learn it, and they want their team to learn it too. So it's unfortunate, but we are moving forward in a direction where people are starting to realize that this is a skill. And in my opinion, I guess I'm a little biased, but I'll throw it out there to you. Is there any skill that a human being can have that's more important than leadership? I can't think of one.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing that you can do as an individual that will beat what a team can do, what a group of people can do. So if you can get that group of people aligned behind a common goal and a common mission and get them moving in the same direction, that is the most important skill that I know of, leadership.
Well, and that includes a marriage, parenting. It's well beyond just business too.
It's every aspect of your life.
I kind of knew it was a skill. I didn't think of it as a perishable skill. Like, okay, I learned this 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. I'm good to go. Like it's kind of like SEALs. Like you guys want to shoot every day because you can learn to shoot and be very accurate, but if you don't practice it, it'll go away. And sports, same thing. Leadership, I feel like, is the same thing. I've gotten into the training with Echelon Front, and it's like, I didn't do that for a couple of years, and skills went away because of it. So I don't think people think of it as a perishable skill either.
Yeah, and also it's not an inoculation that you get. You don't get an injection and now you're a good leader.
Right.
It's something like you're saying, you have to continue to work at it. You have to continue to hone your skills. And by the way, as you elevate your position, the perspective that you have changes, and you have to adapt your leadership to your new perspective and your new position. And I got asked the other day a question about, do your tactics change when you're higher in the chain of command than when you're lower in the chain of command? And even do your tactics change when you're trying to lead your boss as opposed to when you're trying to lead your peers, as opposed to when you're trying to lead your subordinates? And it was a good question. And the first part of the answer is, no, the tactics don't change, because whether I work for you, guess what? I'm going to listen to what you have to say. I'm going to treat you with respect. I'm going to allow you to influence me. I'm going to do all those things if you're my boss. But if you work for me, you're my subordinate, guess what I'm going to do? I'm still going to listen to what you have to say. I'm still going to treat you with respect. I'm still going to allow you to influence me. So the tactics are the same. But what we have to pay attention to is, well, there's an imbalance of weight, right? So if you're my boss, I have a little less weight when I talk to you, so I might have to formulate my approach with you so that you feel a little bit more of the weight, and it has a little bit more impact because I'm trying to push that up to you. Whereas if you're my subordinate, I have to actually back off some of that weight because I don't want you to just take what I say and you go execute it blindly without thinking about it, because now you might be doing something that's actually not that smart just because I told you to do it. So the tactics are the same, but you have to pay attention to how much weight you're going to apply. So that's the kind of thing where if you're just going to lead, you're in charge of 5 people and you're going to lead the same way, you fast forward 3 years and you're in charge of 500 people, your tactics are going to be the same, but you have to pay attention. And like you said, you have to hone those skills and make them applicable in these different scenarios.
That's what I've struggled with since we've scaled so quickly. It went from me being able to touch the entire organization to now I don't know what the hell's going on anywhere.
Yep.
It's completely different.